Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing my 14.3 mid-lane tier list. If you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. So to begin with, there are a couple of things to cover this patch. The main one, of course, being Aurelion Sol. He did get buffed and then hotfix nerfed. He is now in a bit of an interesting spot. A lot of people did perceive it as being an over nerf after they did dish out the hotfix. However, he is still performing quite well at the moment, so if anything, it was slightly power positive. And then in certain areas, power neutral / power down, he's not getting as many stacks off of his E. He has to play a lot more aggressive to get those Q stacks. However, the large pool of mana he has now gotten from having less mana cost on the Q and the W, pretty important here. So I'm going to move him into the S tier. I believe he is a solid S tier pick. Even after the hotfix nerfs, he was massively overperforming with the buffs, so he was like an S++ pick. He was the best champion in the game. The nerfs brought him back in line, and yes, he is a solid S tier pick. Moving on to some of the other buffs, so Talia did get buffed. She is actually in a decent spot. She was already performing well within the mid lane. She's now an S tier mid laner. They seem to be keen in keeping Talia in a solid spot in the mid lane. She tends to perform quite well. A lot of the matchups she does answer are pretty common within solo queue. The likes of Yasuo, Yone, Kayn Aan. She can match these champions quite nicely. And yeah, it solidifies her as being a solid S tier option. She's she's decent in the jungle, but tends to outperform in the mid lane. So it's pretty nice. Ziggs, I originally wrote Ziggs down as being moved up to the B tier, but I'm not really sold on that. I think the changes weren't enough to fix his problems. The W cooldown buff was nice, but it's not really going to suddenly warp some of his matchups. The armor is the main thing here. Gained a bit of base armor combined with a bit of armor growth, but even then, a little bit more durability and a slightly shorter WCD does not fix his problems. He's going to stay within the C tier for the moment. If they do end up dishing out another round of buffs towards Ziggs, it'd be interesting to see where he lands. But yes, for the moment, he is a C tier pick. Azir is going to stay within my A tier. So Azir did get nerfed this patch. Well, technically, Lich Bane got nerfed by 25%. 25% of its base AD, which is a relatively large nerf towards the item. That combined with Azir's health regen going down by 2 from 7 to 5, I believe, makes him a bit more susceptible to poke within lane. Makes some of his matchups a bit harder to play. The value of fleet, of course, is now the main thing on this champion. You are very much encouraged to go it. This is the main reason why they took away some of that health regen, because he has access to a lot more sustain. Overall, he's still a solid champion. If you can pilot the pick well, then he will do wonders. He has insane scaling, one of the best AP late game champions as damage output goes, combined with the fact his ult is a really powerful team fighting tool. Yes, if you combine it with champion well, he's incredibly strong. Still like an S+ pick within elite play. I imagine we'll still see him within competitive. Talking about champions we won't see in competitive anymore, though, I don't believe Corki is going to survive his nerfs. The removal of the Malignant Eclipse combo has been very detrimental towards his champion's power. They did compensate buff him on his W. I don't believe it is enough. If people are still playing him in pro, it's probably because they didn't read the change and the fact that this interaction is now gone, because this was the main source of his power. Like, losing this interaction is like a 3-4% win rate down. It's so much DPS lost on each rocket, so it was very important to him. That combined with Eclipse, I believe, getting straight up nerfed, and Malignance getting nerfed on that part of it, has put him in a bit of a weaker spot. He's now a C tier pick. I hope we don't see any more Corki in competitive. They are changing him soon. We know that much. The champion's frustrating to play against. Package is a weird ability, and I believe they are just planning on outright removing it. But we'll see. For the moment, though, C tier pick. Twisted Fate is going to move up into my S+ tier. Twisted Fate is really just broken at the moment. This champion can go both AP with Roa being buffed. He's even stronger. This champion can also go AD for crit on hit variations. Both are very solid and viable at the moment. He's viable in top lane as a flex pick. He's viable in ADC as a flex pick. You can even put him in the support role. There's just so much power to this champion. For the most part, he is like an S+ pick in both top and mid. More of an S/A pick in the bot lane. I don't quite know his power level as a support, but it is definitely something I have seen a couple of people play. But yeah, very solid pick. Lots of build variations. We'll probably get nerfed this patch. Yeah, just doing too well at the moment. I have Kayn Aan and Akshan written down here, mostly because I want to highlight just how strong Kayn Aan is. Like, she is the best S tier pick. Is she viable? Is she like a solid S plus option? I don't think so. You do have to pilot this champion really well to get a lot out of her, but just her strength at the moment is really, like, it's insane. Like, Hubris, Opportunity make for 2 great items on her. She can go Profane Hydra. It's a great option on her as well. Wrap it up with like a Chirelda's GA or Chirelda's Chirelda's Youmu's? Maybe not Youmu's. Maybe like a Chirelda's Edge, something like that. And this champion's just incredibly powerful at the moment. Access to wave clear, does huge amounts of damage. Good team fighting. Grass is a really obnoxious ability to have on her W. The main reason I haven't put her in the S plus tier though is because Akshan is kind of like my premier AD pick here. Akshan, really strong solo queue option, bit easier to pilot than Kayn Aan, at least that's what I believe. Has some build variants as well. Of course, Youmu's did get nerfed this patch, which did drop his power slightly, but he still has options in the Voltaic Cycler Sword. He can go things like the Storm Racer, the RFC if he needs to. No options there. Champion's still decent. If anything, they are more like S plus buddies. They are both very good. Yeah, I'll put them next to each other, honestly. Vladimir is going to move down to the S tier. Riftmaker got nerfed this patch, I believe. It was either last patch or this patch, I can't remember specifically, but it was a bit of a power loss on him. He's still very strong. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not like suddenly a huge power dip. It's just the champs in the S plus tier at the moment are so incredibly strong that it kind of pushes him out of it, but he is the premier S pick option if Kayn Aan isn't. You know what? I'm gonna leave him S plus as well. Actually, I've changed my mind. This S plus tier is just stacked. There's so many solid options, and like the S tier isn't bad. Like, these champions are also really competitive. There are just a lot of strong options within the mid lane. If you compare these champions well, they are very good. If anything, Singed is like lower down on this tier. Roa did get buffed though, so that is an option for him. However, if making nerf, so kind of balances out. Other champs we'll talk about. So Brand, I'm going to put in the S tier as well. Brand, of course, did get nerfed this patch and on the hotfix. He's still performing really well. He's going to find himself in the mid lane. He is a solid AP damage or burn damage option. Easy to play. If you're looking for something like that, Brand, Swain, Aso all work in different situations quite nicely. They also all work in most situations, so you can kind of pick them when you want. And then the last champion, SMolder. So SMolder is going to be in my C tier. There is builds which have definitely shown to be really powerful. I believe the Arcane Comet W-Start Spear of Shojin into Liandry build is performing really well at the moment. That is new technology happening every day. Just kind of like be up to date on it. This champion looks like it's shaping up to be incredibly strong. You know, I'll put him in B tier because there are build variations which I believe do like kind of make him a solid pick. But yeah, top lane, mid lane, ADC, that are solid builds. He'll probably end up being nerfed this patch, I believe. But for the most part, line the builds well, and he's probably a very strong champion. I'm just being on the side of caution here, as there are still a lot of people who are building things which aren't seemingly as optimal. Essence Reaver just doesn't seem to be his most performant first item, even though that did get buffed this patch. So just be aware of that. But those are my thoughts on the mid lane. There are a couple of champions which can be kind of adjusted depending on build variation. There is still a lot of like openings here on like what people can do with certain champions. I've seen like very heavy burst Gallios on top of tanky Gallios work. Whether this puts this champion in a solid A tier spot, I'm not too sure at the moment. But as like the builds get refined, yeah, I'll have a strong idea. But for the most part, this is relatively accurate. Bar maybe like a few which like have build developments, like Gragas for example, arguably like an S tier option. Just people aren't building him correctly in enough games. There are still people going Storm Surge when this item just isn't the greatest on him. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next one. Goodbye.